Masachet Hullin Daf Kof Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the bottom. Amal Lerab Safra Labaye, continuing with middle of the Sugya. The last thing we said was that Rav held that if a kosher meat touched non-kosher meat that got flavor, it becomes nevela, and all the other kosher meats in slices in that pot also are considered nevela from that. Whereas Michti uses it according to Rav, Command the Manas Mate, who do you hold like? Could it be that must be like Rabbi Yudah? I mean, we know the batil that if once he has something asur, even with his own kind, it's not become batil. The Gemara says, "Well, my area in time, why specifically mention a case where there was flavor from the non-kosher slice to make it considered nevela? I feel low kilona tantamana, even if there's no extra flavor being put, she automatically asur because they're all considered part of the same type." Okay, my system. Dogma. He first removed the original slice of the nevela before adding the mutar slices into the pot. That's why the mutar slices are asur only if it had gotten flavor. The original one had gotten flavor. Rav Amar has a different answer. I feel to look at them as even if that remove it. So why? Have a min umina v'davar her. This, all the stuff in this pot is there's multiple variables. There's a soup. There's the spices. There's with the original Nevila slice, it's not considered a kind with its own kind. It's considered a kind and a kind with something else, a third party. Anytime you have something with its own type and a third party, you remove that second piece of its own type as if it's not there. Therefore, the new thing is considered um, majority and it nullifies it, and therefore it would have been mutar had it not been for that factor. Okay. Right, so basically what I'm saying over here, the original Nivela slice is in the pot. And the total volume of the spices and the rotev and the flavors and everything is 60 times the Nivela slice. Okay. So therefore, the the nu- the flavor goes into a slice of kosher, which considers it make that considered Nivela, and that makes the other slices Nivela. Okay. No, Mishnah. No heg but teorah. The Gita Nashe applies to a kosher animal. If I don't know heg but does not apply to non-kosher animal. You won't get a separate yisur for eating non-kosher animals. Gita Nashe. Gita Mer says no. Af betima if you didn't achaya for a non-kosher animal. Why not Vida? Why? Balam v'rei Yaakov and Esar Gita Nashe. Gita Nashe was a sur from the time of Yaakov Avinu. V'atayim b'tetimah. At that time, it said you can't eat Gita Nashe by Yaakov. At that time, you were allowed to eat non-kosher animals. I'm going to tell them, B'Sinai Na'amar, the Isur was mentioned of her, Gida Nashe was mentioned in Har Sinai, but it mentioned the Gida Nashe when it happened to Yaakov, but that's not when it became Asur. Okay. B'Savara B'Yudah, Isur Hal, Isur Narida really hold that the Isur of Gida Nashe could land on top of the Isur of a non-kosher animal. But then it says, it says, you would have thought that the dead body of a non-kosher animal gives tuma to a person when they swallow it, like a kosher dead animal, dead bird. It says, explicitly mentioned nivela. The reason why you can't eat it is because nivela. That's when you're a tamid. It says that any sur mishum ba'atocha nivela. But over here with non-kosher birds, that's sur not because it's nivela, ela mishum ba'atocha nivela because it's not kosher. So we see from here, there's no nivelut. Seemingly, that you can't stack on to isurim. So how can you say over here that Gina shed lands on top of non-kosher animals? The Gemara says. Maybe you want to give me an answer because maybe the sinews don't have flavor. And therefore, in the case of a non-kosher animal as well, there's only the isur of the gidan nashet and not the isur of a non-kosher animal. And big din and therefore Bida holds there's no flavor. But hey, you can't say that because the Brett says how gidan nashet someone eats the gidan nashet with non-kosher animal. Bida holds chayav double for gidan nashet and non-kosher. Rabbi Shimon Pater, Rabbi Shimon Patur. So see, seemingly, Yidin Hashem according to Bida is Asur is not kosher meat. So why? Why is it doubled down? According to Bida, you cannot stack Isurim. Where it says, La'olam kasavar yesh beginning zamre, there is a flavor. Because of one which the reason why it's already Asur, it's no stacking Isur because the Yidin Hashem applies even when it's inside the fetus. The Isur Tum'ah b'hadet denikati. Therefore, there's no stacking. Nothing came second. They came at the same time. The animal inside the when it was conceived is asur to begin with the isur of Yid and Hashem at the same time. So two and one, not one plus one. Can you really see the Gina applies to a fetus? But the Mishnah says, no, Gina applies to a fetus. If that marriage says, it don't does not apply to a fetus. The Hel Mutar, the Hel is Mutar. So we see obviously he doesn't hold to the fetus. Where it says, because the Torah mentioned that any animal you may eat, any part of the fetus, including Yid and Hashem. But in the non-kosher animal, it applies to the fetus. Where it says, can you really see that the Isurim of the Yenashe applies at the same time? Vatanam Mishnah says, for a Nazir. If he gets Tameh, but from the following things, he has to restart his Nidirut. What's that? Alamet, he has to, if he becomes the from a corpse. If he touches a volume, a kazayit volume of a flesh of the corpse, we had a question, if it was just for the kazayit, Alamet kosh again to kavachomer for a full one. Why did mention a kazayit and then the full and a full one? Just mention kazayit and that's it. The Rabbi Yochanan says, so in that case, even if it's a whole corpse, even if it's just an aborted fetus that was barely formed, even if it's not a kazite. So we see from here that the fetus limbs develop the sinews, including the gidin Elma is kalim. Therefore, we see that non-kosher animal is formed before the gidin comes. So it's not the same time. Whereas the isur even though it does come before Ati Isur Gid the Halal the Ginish land on it. Why? Shakin Sunan have not because it is Isur applied even before the Torah was given. Because the Mishnah says, remember that it says Yaakov and Esag and Hashem, because Rita says Isur happened from the sons of Yaakov, and the non-kosher animals were alive by then, were mutar to them. So we see from there that Rita is pointing out that idea exactly that there's a difference by the Gid and Hashem because it was Asur from before Sinai. Kufa, we said earlier, how do you know about someone needs to get a shev an for animal? Rabbi have shame Rabbi hold your have double sets of malkut. Rabbi Shimon Pater says your patur, not for non-kosher, not for yeah. Mer says Rabbi Shimon according to Rabbi Shimon. Manashach. Why does he hold that? Isur halal as if he holds that an isur can take on an isur. The have nami mishum gidish bihayav for the gidin asher and non-kosher animal 80 makot. Any isur halal if he holds no double makot a double isur. לחייב משום טומאה תקדים, at least then we have eating kosher meat. ואין בגין זמן לחייב משום gid, and if he holds it all, the reason why there's no isur as meat, because there's no flavor, then at least he should say יחייב for gidin asher. Remember it says, Amar Rava holds that Olam Kasavar and being the time he holds no flavor. Therefore, it's not chayav for meat. Veshani hatam. So why is there no isur in gidin asher? The Amar Kana Pasuk says, Al ken lo yecholu bnei Yisrael gidin asher. Torah says the bnei Yisrael should not be chayav. Should not eat the gidin asher. What does that mean? Mi shegido asur v'saram mutar. That's seemingly saying it's only asur when the gid's the only thing asur, but the meat mutar. Yes, tazu. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon learns from here that excluding this case, if it's a non-kosher animal, shegido asur b'sura asur, that the gid is asur and the meat asur, that does not apply. No halacha to say that over there. Okay, Marid Amarav. How chagid in a sheshan nevelav? So it's a gdin shev nevelah. A kosher animal not slaughtered. Rabbi Meir died naturally. That's it. Rabbi Meir chayav shleim. Rabbi holds double, one for nevelah, one for gdin shev. Hamim say eno chayav achat chayav one set for gdin shev. Umodim they agree. Hamim the Meir that Hamim would agree to the Meir that what the ochel gdin shev she'olah v'shel shron eskal. If he ate the gdin shev a korban olah or an ox that was supposed to be stoned, which is our surbana'ah, she'av shleim yochayav two says malkut. One for eating a sheh and one for eating the meat of an ox that was supposed to die slash an olah like that. We'll finish it tomorrow. And